We've all been completely sold the golden illusion of Hollywood romance. When we gaze upon the glamorous marriages of our favorite black female icons, we automatically assume that behind closed doors lies a picture-perfect family, safely shielded by endless wealth and the forgiving spotlight. But what happens when the flashing cameras finally power down? For 15 powerful black female celebrities, their fairy tale romances were nothing more than a meticulously crafted survival strategy for the men they trusted most. The illusion shattered in the most brutal, deeply traumatizing way imaginable. Imagine standing at the absolute pinnacle of your career, only to accidentally uncover an earth-shattering secret. The husband you have slept beside for decades is secretly maintaining a completely double life. Today, we are unlocking the darkest doors of the entertainment industry to expose the terrifying moments 15 legendary women caught their husbands in the ultimate act of betrayal, intimately entangled with other men. Prepare yourselves. These shocking discoveries and unanswered questions will change how you view celebrity love forever. Jvetta Steel. Imagine kneeling on the cold, unforgiving bathroom tile, violently throwing up as the horrifying realization washes over you that the man you swore your life to might have just handed you a literal death sentence. This was the agonizing reality for Jvetta Steel as she sat in complete darkness, anxiously waiting for the results of an emergency HIV test. The ultimate, terrifying climax to a deeply toxic romance and a web of unfathomable lies. To truly understand the depth of this raw agony, we must rewind to her golden illusion. Jvetta was a vocal powerhouse, the internationally celebrated artist behind the hauntingly beautiful, Oscar-nominated track, Calling You. She firmly believed she had secured a glamorous marriage rooted in a strict Pentecostal upbringing since late 1978. She safely trusted the forgiving spotlight of her career and the supposedly secure warmth of her picture-perfect family in Minneapolis. However, on the romantically charged night of Valentine's Day in 1990, the illusion shattered completely. While she stayed home washing dishes and caring for their 2 young children, her husband called with a painfully familiar excuse. Another sudden weekend business trip, but a casually discarded dinner receipt for 2 found directly in the kitchen trash ignited her deepest, darkest suspicions. Plagued by a sudden rush of unanswered questions, she left the kids with a neighbor and aggressively drove into the freezing, unforgiving night. Hiding in the dim shadows of a downtown jazz bar, she finally uncovered his earth-shattering secret. She watched in paralyzed shock as her husband intimately hugged, kissed, and caressed another man with the undeniable passion of true lovers. The scandalous betrayal pushed her far past her breaking point. She stormed over and delivered a resounding slap that loudly echoed through the entire establishment. When he finally chased her home and confessed to living a calculated double life on the down low, the true invisible punishment was fully revealed. He had secretly known he was HIV positive since before their wedding day. Although she miraculously tested negative and bravely transformed her pain into the healing stage musical, 2 Queens, 1 Castle, the psychological trauma inflicted by this merciless foe lingered heavily. Trust is the world's most fragile glass. Once intentionally shattered by the very hands meant to protect it, it can never reflect the exact same light again. A violent disruption in a crowded public space inevitably gives way to an even more terrifying private isolation. The stinging sound of an explosive confrontation in a jazz club abruptly yielded to the hushed, secretive whispers echoing down the hallway of a suburban apartment, where another musical titan was about to turn the wrong key. Melba Moore. It began with a seemingly innocent hotel phone log detailing an extra charge for champagne and fresh towels. That minuscule, mundane clerical error in Philadelphia became the precise instrument that dismantled a 17-year golden illusion. Melba Moore was a Tony-winning powerhouse, a legendary Broadway icon who effortlessly commanded the dazzling stage lights. To the world, she was the matriarch of a picture-perfect family, anchored by a glamorous marriage to her music producer husband, Charles Huggins. But on October 18, 1990, an unexpected apology call from a hotel clerk regarding her husband's unannounced stay triggered a chilling intuition. Refusing to be paralyzed by unanswered questions, she immediately boarded a flight, securing a key card to his luxury suite by 11 p.m. When she pushed that heavy oak door open, the illusion shattered instantly. The husband she had blindly trusted for nearly 2 long decades was caught actively engaging in a passionate, scandalous betrayal with a young man right before her eyes. She stood completely frozen, overwhelmed by the earth-shattering secret of his elaborate double life. But the raw agony didn't stop at the shocking bedroom door. A subsequent legal investigation into their complex finances revealed a toxic romance built on absolute, calculating fraud. Her massive earnings had been quietly drained from the inside to finance her husband's survival strategy and support his secret male lover. Charles even filed for divorce first, leaving her facing profound public disgrace and total financial ruin. A single hotel receipt didn't just expose a cheater. It coldly proved that her entire reality was a meticulously funded lie, plunging a Broadway legend into an unfillable void. That sudden collapse of a luxurious hotel suite's walls mirrors another terrifying implosion miles away, where a romantic holiday dinner violently mutated into a freezing nightmare. Phyllis Hyman. Sometimes, the destruction of an entire lifetime can be traced back to a single, remarkably mundane inconvenience. On September 7, 1981, after an exhausting performance schedule in Detroit, Phyllis made one tiny decision that forever altered her destiny. She chose to head home earlier than planned. Upon arriving, she realized she had lost her primary house keys, leaving her with only the spare key to her husband's private suburban apartment, a space Larry Alexander strictly called his personal office. That one minor logistical error was the fatal ripple that destroyed her golden illusion. As a revered jazz powerhouse and an undeniable icon, her 1977 marriage to her manager projected the image of a glamorous marriage basking in the forgiving spotlight. But inserting that spare key into the lock triggered an immediate sudden drop. Opening the door to the darkened apartment, she was met with scattered men's shoes and clothing leading to a slightly ajar bedroom door. Peeking through the crack, the illusion shattered completely. Her husband was lying completely naked in bed with 2 other men, engaging in a scandalous betrayal. The earth-shattering secret of his elaborate double life plunged her into raw agony. She dropped her bag and walked away in a traumatized daze while he frantically chased after her in just his underwear, begging for forgiveness. But the damage was irreparable. The systemic blade of fame's crushing pressure, combined with this profound betrayal, pushed her into severe drug dependency and an unfillable void she carried until her death in 1995. A single misplaced set of keys is truly all it takes to unlock a nightmare that permanently destroys your reality. The suffocating, claustrophobic air of that hidden suburban bedroom soon expanded into the sprawling, neon-lit corridors of West Hollywood, where a digital breadcrumb was about to guide an unsuspecting wife directly into a devastatingly crowded hotel suite. Tamar Braxton. We eagerly consume the fiercely confident, heavily edited persona of an R&B star and reality television powerhouse, buying completely into her golden illusion. In the early 2000s, Tamar Braxton meticulously projected the flawless image of a glamorous marriage with her music producer husband, Daryl Amlani, securely basking in the forgiving spotlight. But the blinding, dazzling stage lights of reality television often obscure the toxic romance rotting just off-screen. On June 22, 2004, the illusion shattered not through a premeditated press release, but via a single, anonymous text message. While navigating fame's crushing pressure and building her solo career in Los Angeles, she received a photo of a man helping her allegedly working husband into a discreet West Hollywood boutique hotel. Naively believing he was merely intoxicated after a late-night business meeting, she rushed to his aid, completely unaware she was driving straight toward an earth-shattering secret. The sudden drop was breathtakingly cruel. Pushing open the unlatched hotel room door, she walked directly into a scandalous betrayal. Her husband was completely naked in bed with another man, with used condoms carelessly scattered nearby. She let out a piercing scream of raw agony, standing frozen as the reality of his elaborate double life crashed down upon her. All those late-night studio sessions had simply been a calculated survival strategy to mask his true desires. She fled the scene in horror, realizing her highly publicized romance was instantly destined to become painful tabloid fodder. The public truly knows nothing about their idols, happily worshipping a flawless facade that merely conceals an unfillable void. That agonizing, solitary shriek echoing down the sterile corridors of a West Hollywood boutique hotel eventually surrendered to the deafening, thumping bass of a bustling Atlanta sports bar, where another prominent television royalty was preparing to violently crash a secluded VIP section. Porsha Williams. Long before a heart actually breaks, it is slowly devoured by the creeping, suffocating paranoia of a silent predator living entirely inside the mind. For days, a heavy, unshakable dread haunted Porsha Williams, a reality television powerhouse who supposedly possessed the ultimate golden illusion. She confidently basked in the forgiving spotlight, publicly projecting the flawless image of a glamorous marriage with former NFL player Kordell Stewart. But his prolonged, unexplained absences fed an invisible enemy of doubt, gradually turning her picture-perfect family into a private psychological torture chamber. Driven by this agonizing intuition on the night of November 11, 2012, she hunted for answers through the buzzing nightlife of Atlanta, finally tracking his past receipts to an upscale sports bar. Navigating the loud music, she marched directly toward VIP section number 2. Pushing the slightly open door, her worst paranoid nightmares instantly materialized into a brutal sudden drop. She witnessed her husband actively engaged in a scandalous betrayal, sitting intimately with his arm tightly wrapped around another man's waist, laughing and sharing soft kisses. Storming into the VIP area, her sudden presence caused instant chaos, completely obliterating the carefully constructed facade of their lives. Kordell couldn't defend his double life. The ensuing 2013 divorce heavily weaponized their earth-shattering secret into cruel tabloid fodder, exposing the relationship to massive public disgrace. The most terrifying reality of a toxic romance is that a woman's spirit is systematically murdered by silent deception long before her physical eyes ever witness the actual betrayal. Fleeing the neon-lit chaos of a crowded club leaves behind a very specific, humiliating kind of trauma. Yet, an even more profound violation awaits when the battlefield shifts completely away from the public eye, forcing an exhausted author to confront an unthinkable reality resting directly upon her own marital pillows. LeJoyce Brookshire. I am the heavily draped marital bed, intricately crafted to be the ultimate, sacred sanctuary for a picture-perfect family. For years, I silently supported the golden illusion of LeJoyce Brookshire, a celebrated author and educator who truly believed her marriage to her successful husband, Stephen, was a bulletproof fortress of love. But I was also the mute witness absorbing the chilling, hidden weight of his earth-shattering secret whenever she left town. On the fateful afternoon of August 3, 1994, she returned home early from a tiring Chicago workshop, desperately seeking the warm, familiar peace of my comfort. He had confidently told her he was merely hosting a routine meeting with business partners. As she walked down the hallway, drawn by the soft, gentle music and faint laughter, she gently pushed the master bedroom door open. The illusion shattered the exact second her eyes met my sheets. I felt the crushing weight of her raw agony paralyze the entire room as she stood completely frozen, witnessing her husband intimately entangled with a familiar male business associate right on top of my cushions. This scandalous betrayal was merely the prelude to a much darker, lethal nightmare. The invisible walls of his double life had successfully concealed a silent predator. Weeks later, the horrifying truth fully materialized. He was secretly harboring the century's plague. Driven by the systemic blade of societal fear of stigma and the pressure to maintain a masculine facade, he had selfishly risked handing her a literal death sentence. Miraculously uninfected, she bravely transformed her trauma into the powerful book Faith Under Fire, staying to nurse him until he died of AIDS complications in 1995. Today, I stand as a cold, inanimate monument of fabric and wood, silently echoing the profound, invisible punishment of a woman whose greatest love story was built entirely on a fatal lie. A violated sanctuary in the deepest, most private chamber of a home carries a uniquely suffocating sting. This exact flavor of domestic desecration soon manifested within a brightly lit Los Angeles apartment, violently transforming a casual piece of everyday furniture into a horrifying theater of absolute deceit for an exhausted actress returning from set. Tisha Campbell. Zoom in on a single, dropped paper grocery bag spilling onto a hardwood floor in Studio City. That mundane, scattered mess on the sweltering afternoon of May 19, 2017, is the exact forensic evidence of a golden illusion violently imploding. Tisha Campbell was a television powerhouse, a beloved actress comfortably enjoying the forgiving spotlight, and what appeared to be a glamorous marriage spanning over 2 decades with actor Dwayne Martin. She had finished filming 2 hours early, hoping to happily cook a quiet dinner for her picture-perfect family. But quietly opening her apartment door, she walked right into a terrifying sudden drop. There, directly on the familiar living room sofa, her completely naked husband was intimately entangled with a young male acquaintance from his own film set. The earth-shattering secret of his double life was brutally exposed. Enraged by this scandalous betrayal, she physically attacked them both in raw agony. Yet, in a chilling display of misplaced affection, Dwayne tightly shielded his male lover, silently clenching his teeth against his wife's furious blows rather than apologizing. By early 2018, their highly publicized, messy divorce turned her private devastation into vicious tabloid fodder, subjecting her to immense public disgrace and messy legal battles. The cold, forensic truth of Hollywood romances is chillingly absolute. A 20-year foundation of unwavering trust can be completely decimated in the single second it takes a grocery bag to hit the floor. The echoing crash of a ruined domestic sanctuary slowly faded, only to be replaced by the deep, heavy bass lines vibrating through a smoky underground jazz club in Harlem, where another respected artist was about to stumble blindly into a different kind of suffocating dark. Lynette McKee. I remember standing near the sticky bar of that dimly lit, underground Harlem Jazz Club on November 27, 2000, nursing a cheap drink. The heavy bass vibrated through the floorboards as she walked in. Lynette McKee was a Broadway powerhouse who seemingly possessed the ultimate golden illusion. With a celebrated career and a glamorous marriage to youth counselor Leo Compton since 1983, she safely basked in the forgiving spotlight. Having finished her performance early, she simply came to fetch him for their daughter's birthday. As she pushed through the smoky crowd toward the VIP section, I saw her face completely freeze. The sudden drop happened right before our eyes. Tucked away in a dark corner, bathed in weak neon lights, her husband was actively engaged in a scandalous betrayal. He was sharing an intensely passionate, lingering kiss with another man. His earth-shattering secret and elaborate double life were violently laid bare. I watched raw agony contort her features as she burst into tears and fled into the cold night, leaving her picture-perfect family completely shattered. What makes this toxic romance truly devastating is the invisible punishment of community complicity. Her friends had known about this merciless foe for years, but the systemic blade of preserving masculine images and the fear of stigma deliberately allowed her to live a lie. Divorcing in 2001, she learned that the most blinding trauma occurs exactly when the comforting stage lights finally power down, leaving you completely alone in the pitch black. The stale cigarette smoke of that Harlem basement inevitably evaporated, giving way to the sterile, heavily perfumed corridors of a luxury hotel, where musical royalty was about to confront a meticulously tied-up deception. Aretha Franklin. She was the undisputed, immortal queen of soul, a vocal powerhouse whose majestic voice commanded the world's absolute reverence. Basking securely in the forgiving spotlight, she fiercely protected her private life, constructing a flawless golden illusion around her 1978 glamorous marriage to actor Glenn Turman. Yet, the ultimate paradox of standing at the very peak of human adoration is that millions of screaming fans cannot shield a woman from the raw agony waiting inside a silent, top-floor hotel suite. On February 14, 1983, Detroit was still buzzing from her monumental, triumphant stage performance. Stepping out of the dazzling stage lights, she expected a romantic Valentine's night. Instead, Glenn cited a vague industry networking party at a downtown hotel. Plagued by lingering chilling speculation and whispers regarding his sexuality, she investigated the venue, only to find no such event existed. Driving home, she accidentally spotted his car at a different luxury hotel owned by a friend, granting her direct access to the isolated suites. Knocking on the heavy door, a strange, nervous man answered. Stepping inside, the illusion shattered in the most humiliating, scandalous betrayal imaginable. Her husband was completely naked, tightly bound in sexual bondage gear, and blindfolded on a king-size bed. The earth-shattering secret of his double life was laid bare, inflicting a profound, invisible punishment. Tears poured down her face as she instantly fled the room. For years, she suffered immense psychological trauma, tormenting herself with the agonizing, unfillable void of feeling entirely inadequate. Their marriage officially dissolved in 1984. What is the true value of global fame and unimaginable wealth if your jeweled crown cannot protect your own heart from being ruthlessly butchered in the dark? A monarch's silent weeping within a heavily guarded penthouse slowly evaporated into the frantic, pounding disco beats of a late-night rehearsal space, where another Broadway darling was happily carrying midnight snacks directly into a brightly lit nightmare. Stephanie Mills. 2 short years of marriage. 1 slightly unlatched studio door. 6 grueling years of psychological paralysis. The mathematical breakdown of a golden illusion is brutally precise. As the fiercely disciplined, highly religious Broadway powerhouse famously known for The Wiz, Stephanie Mills seemingly possessed a glamorous marriage with Jeffrey Daniel of Shalimar in 1980. She securely bathed in the forgiving spotlight, confidently projecting the pristine image of a picture-perfect family. But the rigid arithmetic of her traditional values was about to violently collide with the chaotic, hidden variables of her husband's reality. On the night of July 9, 1982, after many exhausting hours of intense recording in Los Angeles, she calculated a simple, loving gesture, delivering late-night snacks to his dance rehearsal. Pushing open the slightly ajar studio door, her heart experienced an immediate, terrifying sudden drop. Amidst the flashing lights and thumping disco beats, her husband was actively engaging in a scandalous betrayal. He was intimately caressing, embracing, and sharing a deep, passionate kiss with a young male dancer. The earth-shattering secret of his double life instantly reduced her entire reality to zero. Overwhelmed by raw agony and absolute shock, she hurled the bag of food directly at him, fleeing the studio in uncontrollable tears. The toxic romance was abruptly terminated without a fight, leaving her completely trapped in an unfillable void of betrayal. It took a staggering 6 years for her to finally overcome the severe psychological trauma and remarry in 1989. The cruelest equation of Hollywood survival remains absolute. You can perfectly calculate every single step of your career, yet one unseen variable of deception will instantly multiply your pain into infinity. The dizzying, flashing strobe lights of that shattered dance studio eventually burned out, abruptly giving way to the cold, glaring glow of a digital screen, where a reigning musical queen was about to watch her own empire be systematically dismantled pixel by pixel. Mary J. Blige. A single press of a play button can be the fatal click that entirely detonates a golden illusion. As the reigning powerhouse and indisputable queen of hip-hop soul, Mary J. Blige had famously turned her past traumas into deeply emotional hit anthems. She firmly believed her union with Kendu Isaacs was a glamorous marriage safely shielded by the forgiving spotlight. But on September 12, 2015, after noticing suspicious financial charges on their joint account, she made one fateful choice. She secretly hired a private investigator. That single decision unleashed a devastating sudden drop. Sitting alone in her quiet New Jersey mansion, she clicked play on a hidden camera video from his Manhattan office, initially watching him passionately kiss another woman. Yet, this toxic romance possessed an even darker, more horrifying layer. Days later, following the investigator's lead to a cheap motel, she drove 2 hours and was physically handed a room key. Unlocking that door unleashed the ultimate merciless foe. The illusion shattered completely as she walked in and found her husband intimately entangled in bed with a man. The earth-shattering secret of his elaborate double life was brutally confirmed. The ensuing 2016 divorce battles became vicious, highly publicized tabloid fodder, subjecting her to grueling financial disputes and immense public disgrace. A single choice to uncover a financial lie can invite an invisible enemy into your psyche, proving how dangerously fragile trust truly is. A pixelated betrayal viewed in the terrifying isolation of a dark living room is deeply agonizing, but witnessing the destruction of your own life in high definition through a crystal-clear glass window leaves a wife with absolutely nowhere to hide. Cheryl Lee Ralph. Hollywood's systemic blade ruthlessly thrives on exploiting the monumental resilience of black female powerhouses, demanding they build untouchable empires while completely ignoring the toxic romance actively festering inside their own homes. As a legendary Broadway diva famously known for her work in Dreamgirls, Cheryl Lee Ralph constructed a breathtaking golden illusion through her 1990 glamorous marriage to businessman Eric Maurice. She confidently stood in the forgiving spotlight, trusting her picture-perfect family was safely immune to the industry's deception. On the scorching afternoon of June 5, 1998, after wrapping up her Los Angeles film set early, she decided to surprise him at his 8th-floor Malibu service apartment. Because he meticulously shared his exact locations as a calculated survival strategy to feign total transparency, she approached the door completely unguarded. But the sudden drop wasn't hidden behind a locked barrier. It was brazenly displayed through an uncurtained glass window. The illusion shattered instantly. Looking into the brightly lit room, she witnessed her husband actively engaged in a scandalous betrayal, intimately entangled with another man directly under a chandelier. The earth-shattering secret of his double life paralyzed her with raw agony and a sickening wave of nausea. When the other man finally noticed her standing there and let out a shocked scream, she snapped out of her daze and fled into the elevator. The marriage ended in 2001, leaving her to endure the invisible punishment of broken trust. Hollywood heavily forces its queens to wear dazzling crowns, completely indifferent to the terrifying fact that those very jewels are often paid for with the absolute destruction of their own realities. The searing, unforgiving sunlight illuminating that Malibu betrayal soon dissolved into the suffocating, blood-red neon haze of a Chicago underground nightclub, where another vocal titan was about to follow an anonymous whisper straight into the dark. Mickey Howard, I want you to close your eyes and step into the suffocating, smoke-filled air of a Chicago Southside underground club on October 21, 1996. Feel the intense heat radiating from the crowded dance floor, bathed entirely in blinding red neon. Mickey Howard, a legendary R&B powerhouse of the 80s and 90s, was walking right into the epicenter of her own nightmare. She had always possessed the golden illusion, commanding the dazzling stage lights while projecting the image of a glamorous marriage to her manager, Eddie Phelps, since 1989. But stepping off stage that cold autumn night, a single anonymous text message pierced through the forgiving spotlight, guiding her directly towards a brutal, inescapable sudden drop. After paying the bouncer half her night's earnings just to get past the imposing front door, she aggressively pushed through the heavy bass and dense smoke. That was the exact moment the illusion shattered. As a paralyzed witness to her own tragedy, she stood completely frozen under the red lights, her eyes locking onto a scandalous betrayal. Her husband was intimately pressed against a flamboyantly dressed man, hugging tightly and touching each other in highly sensitive places while the crowd around them giggled. The earth-shattering secret of his double life was literally vibrating through the floorboards. Refusing to surrender to raw agony and become messy tabloid fodder, she simply walked up to him, coldly whispered, "Go home," and turned her back on the toxic romance forever. She finalized her divorce a mere month later. When the thumping music finally stops and the blinding house lights violently flip on, the terrifying reality of the stranger you are truly sleeping next to can never be unseen. A freezing Chicago street corner forcefully clears the lungs, yet that icy air is utterly powerless compared to the chilling, suffocating silence of a New York hotel corridor, where a celebrated beauty queen was quietly preparing to deliver a meticulously timed anniversary gift. Vanessa Williams. The universe possesses a terrifyingly cruel sense of humor, often choosing the exact moment of your absolute triumph to deliver the most devastating sudden drop. By the afternoon of January 2, 1997, Vanessa Williams was basking in the ultimate golden illusion. She had relentlessly fought her way back from early controversies to reclaim her undisputed status as an R&B powerhouse and acting icon. More importantly, that very day marked her 10th wedding anniversary to film producer and publicist Ramon Hervey II. She confidently believed her glamorous marriage and picture-perfect family were finally secure in the forgiving spotlight. But her monumental peak was violently inverted within a matter of hours. Suspicious of his supposed management meeting schedule, she spotted his car parked outside a midtown Manhattan hotel. Entering the lobby, she witnessed her husband intimately hugging two men and securing a room key. Instead of instantly screaming in raw agony and creating cheap tabloid fodder, this resilient queen utilized a chillingly calm survival strategy. She waited outside his room for an agonizing 30 minutes, quietly staring at the invisible walls of her impending doom. When she finally knocked, masquerading as hotel room service delivering a VIP anniversary gift, the illusion shattered completely. Opening the door, she found her husband entirely naked in a scandalous betrayal with the two men, the bed sickeningly littered with used condoms. In a rare fracture of her flawless poise, she fiercely slapped his face, leaving deep scratches before his panicked lovers shoved her out and slammed the door shut. The earth-shattering secret of his double life completely devastated her trust, immediately triggering a swift divorce. When a globally revered monarch fights tooth and nail to rebuild a glittering empire, only to discover her decade-long union was nothing but a hollow, toxic romance. What is the true, hidden price of wearing such a heavy crown? A beauty queen fiercely maintaining her quiet dignity outside a locked hotel door is a profound masterclass in silent suffering. Yet, an even more fiercely guarded, globally recognized facade was simultaneously crumbling inside a secluded Silver Lake studio, where the ultimate pop royalty was tracking the devastating echoes of her own invisible marriage. Janet Jackson. Zoom in on a forgotten, dusty spare key to a small, secluded Silver Lake studio apartment. That tiny, unassuming piece of metal, completely untouched by the couple for over 5 long years, became the exact forensic instrument used to violently dismantle one of Hollywood's most heavily guarded secrets. As the undisputed queen of pop, Janet Jackson was an absolute powerhouse and a culture-shifting icon who effortlessly commanded the world's dazzling stage lights. To shield her sanity from fame's crushing pressure, she constructed the ultimate golden illusion, a highly secretive glamorous marriage to Renee Elizondo Jr., hidden entirely away from the forgiving spotlight since 1991. But by the night of August 28, 1999, the silent predator of suspicion had fully infected her mind. Her husband's increasing absences and vague excuses about personal projects triggered a dark, inescapable intuition. Driven by chilling speculation, she hailed a taxi and quietly tailed his car through the twisting Los Angeles streets, following him directly to that artistic, isolated Silver Lake studio. Standing completely alone in the quiet hallway, she pressed her ear against the heavy door. The sensual music playing inside was perhaps expected, but the strange, heavy masculine voices moaning within confirmed her absolute worst fears. Inserting that old spare key into the lock, she gently pushed the door open and walked straight into a brutal, terrifying sudden drop. Under the soft, yellow studio lights, the illusion shattered completely. Her husband was sitting entirely naked on the sofa, with another man positioned intimately on his lap, his underwear falling off. The earth-shattering secret of his elaborate double life instantly paralyzed her. Catching her gaze, his joyful smile immediately vanished in pure shock, his face rapidly draining of color. She didn't scream in raw agony or step any further into the defiled apartment. The scandalous betrayal was absolute. She simply turned her back and decisively walked away from the toxic romance forever. By early 2000, their highly publicized divorce fully exposed the invisible walls of their union. The cold, forensic truth remains undeniable. You can successfully hide your marriage from the entire world, but you can never hide your partner's merciless foe from yourself. We all perceive these devastating moments of discovery differently. Some view this sudden drop as the most tragic destruction of a woman's life. Others see it as a brutal but necessary blessing, the exact moment the earth-shattering secret is exposed and they finally see the true faces of the men they shared their lives with. What are your thoughts on these shattered golden illusions? Leave a comment below. If you want to uncover more scandalous betrayals hidden behind Hollywood's glamour, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video.